Hi, today we are going to quickly make our pumpkin gingerbread cookies. These are gluten-free, they're vegan, they're also paleo, so I really hope that you enjoy this recipe. Follow along. I'm just going to start with the pumpkin puree and the coconut milk. That's unsweetened coconut milk, and this is pumpkin puree, not pumpkin pie. I do try to use organic with this. And that's 2/3 of a cup, and this is 1/4 of a cup of the unsweetened coconut milk, excuse me. Just gonna quickly combine those, and to this mixture, I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of chia. The chia seeds act like the eggs in this recipe. They help hold everything together. They're also a great source of fiber. They will help keep you full. I can tell you, I just had some of these cookies that I made earlier in the week, and I'm so full now. So they'll just easily mix in. It'll start to get thick. What the chia does is it starts absorbing the liquid from the recipe, and the chia seeds will expand. So that's where we're starting. Next, I'm gonna add our organic molasses. The molasses is what gives the recipe its flavor. So we've got 2 tablespoons of molasses. It's really thick. This is a sweetener filled with a ton of vitamins and nutrients. It's got iron in it, some magnesium and potassium. It's great for electrolyte rebalancing. I try to add as much molasses as I can, especially during this time of year, to our sweet treats. So that's 2 tablespoons molasses. Don't worry if you don't get it all off your spoon. Just gonna quickly blend that in. And to this, I'm gonna add a teaspoon of just minced ginger. I buy the organic kind, already minced. You could just get your own ginger root and shave that down, but to me it's worth the extra $1 to already have it done. I use it in everything. All right, so that's the mixture so far. I'm gonna let the chia seeds just sit for a second as I measure out the rest of the ingredients. All right, so that has had a chance to just sit for maybe a minute or two. Just give those chia seeds a chance. I like to try to let them do their thing before I add any oil to the recipe. So that was just 2 tablespoons of organic coconut oil. I'm gonna mince that in. So that's the one ingredient, that and the molasses, that you really can't leave out. It helps the dough get hard again when we put it in the fridge. That way it's easier to roll out. So the coconut oil is super necessary, and then the molasses is what gives the gingerbread cookies a little bit of their taste and their color for sure. This is 1/4 of a cup of almond meal, or you may see it be called almond flour. And I'm going to add to that 2 tablespoons of coconut flour. I will say that I've heard different brands of coconut flour act differently, so buyer beware. I end up using Trader Joe's a lot, but there's also some other great coconut flours on the market. And then here's where a lot of the protein comes in. This is the way I save a lot of my calories. Instead of adding a bunch of white flour or even whole wheat flour to my recipes, I use protein powder. It sweetens the dish, so I don't have to add any extra stevia, but it's also, these calories are protein packed, which makes this a healthier alternative to your normal just cookie recipe. Honestly, the recipe, the way it's written right now, I would be happy to have this for breakfast. It's super filling, and who doesn't want cookies for breakfast? You'll see that this is a little bit thick, which is fine. If you need to add a little bit more milk, you can. I just give it a second to kind of come together. You want it to not be very runny because it needs to come together like a dough. Remember, it's going to be in the refrigerator, and then so it should be able to be easily packed down. See, that'll make a good dough later on. Everything just kind of sticks together. So I'm not going to add any more liquid to that. What I am going to add though is the rest of the spices and the baking powder. So I'll show you that now. I've got ginger. I always buy my ground ginger at the grocery store in the bulk bins. It seems to be a little bit fresher when I don't get the ginger in the bulk bins. I've noticed sometimes that the it's just not as potent. It doesn't really give the recipe the kick it needs. Of course, this is being difficult, so I'm just gonna wing this. The more ginger, the better for me. But it's about a teaspoon that you need. I think that's about what's left in here. If you do more, it might just be a little bit more spicy, which is fine. And then we're gonna do a full tablespoon of cinnamon. I love cinnamon. I can't stand when recipes don't have enough of the spices in them. I wanna be able to taste what's in my food. So cinnamon and ginger are a big part of gingerbread cookies to me. I'm just adding a teaspoon of organic vanilla extract. I don't really make a recipe without it. And then baking soda and baking powder. I will tell you, with the baking powder, we figured out that the baking powder we were using was not gluten-free, or at least it didn't act like it was gluten-free and was bothering Dave's stomach. He's not going to be able to have these today, so I'm happy to just use regular baking powder. Otherwise, I'd be using certified gluten-free baking powder to make sure that this didn't bother his stomach at all. But other than that, the recipe is gluten-free, and baking powder itself is naturally gluten-free. It's just the cornstarch can often act like gluten to your stomach, and it can cause some issues. So, all right, I'm just gonna finish stirring this. You can see it's kind of clumpy, which is fine. My test is always just grab a little bit, push it together. If it stays together on its own pretty well, you're in good shape. If it just keeps falling apart and not really wanting to stick together, then you might want to add a tablespoon or two of milk to this, but I'm pretty confident that this is in good shape. This is going in the fridge for 20 minutes while I clean up. All right, y'all, so the dough has been chilling for, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, not too long. I have a piece of wax paper here and a piece of parchment paper. Just going to, as you can see, the dough sticks together. I ended up checking this and adding about 2 more tablespoons of milk. It just wasn't fine at the consistency. If in doubt, I would just roll it out one time. It doesn't take but a second to roll this out. If it's sticking together really easily like this, then you're good. If it keeps wanting to crack apart, then you know that you are probably in need of more milk. So what I do, I like to bring it all together in a mound, and then I just push it down with my hand just to start it. I cover it with wax paper here, and then trusty, you can also use a wine glass or even a can from like a soup can or something like that. So I just try to get it flat, and then we rotate, okay? Bring it down, and then you push. You always push from the center out, okay? And then again, no real rhyme or reason which way I go in what direction. But as you can see, it's starting to come out the side here, so that usually tells me to try to push more in the opposite direction. But this seems to be pretty good thickness. You want to try to be careful at the edges so they don't get too thin. This dough does come together very well as far as once you cut it out, you can just smash it back together. You can see there are some white spots in here. That's just the coconut oil. It's perfectly fine to be like that. This is ceramic, but you can always just use a parchment paper lined sheet as well. Got the trusty cutter. This is my little gingerbread man. He is simple to use. I usually just give it a little shake, then it comes out. Just peel away the excess and plop them on. All right, I'm just gonna finish that up. The thicker your cookies are, the longer they'll take to cook, and the less you'll yield from the batch, so it's up to you. I usually like a thick cookie, but if you tend to like them smaller, that's fine as well. It's just however much you want to roll them out. So this goes pretty quickly, as you can see. This is a great project to have. If you have little ones in the house, they love doing this stuff. This and the decorating is probably the best part of the holidays for them. So get them involved. You saw how quickly this came together. They really can't ruin it. and this will keep them busy forever. Make some houses, you know, make a little village. This dough is super healthy. It'll be what you actually want to eat instead of some of that other stuff that's just nasty. I try to make it work, but if it doesn't, I'll just smush it back together. It's no big deal. So this is gonna be my first tray. And then the next tray I do, I may decide to make them a little bit thinner. Get one more on. You can see how fast that came together though. So it is super simple. And these are going in the oven. I don't know if you can see them or not. So we're gonna put these in the oven for about 15 minutes. All right guys, so these have been in the oven. I ended up baking them for about 17 minutes at 350 degrees. You can tell they stay together fine just on their own. They're easy just to come off. I'm going to use coconut butter to ice these. I'm just going to put it in a little icing bag and try to ice them myself with just the icing bag. I think I'm gonna do some smiles and maybe some indications of the feet and stuff, but go crazy, have fun with your kids. The more natural of whatever you're using, of course, the healthier it's gonna be, which is why I choose the coconut butter. White chocolate's always fun as well though, so go crazy. These have to cool down before you can decorate them though, so give them about 2 hours before you play with them. Have a great day, enjoy your cookies.